Once Human has a bit of an identity crisis. Each season, I have to ask myself, is Starry making a multiplayer open world survival game set in a strange post apocalyptic future with some MMORPG elements sprinkled in? Or are they making an open world MMORPG with some survival elements sprinkled in? This season, in Way of Winter, we got new survival content in the form of surviving extreme hot and cold temperatures and some limited base defense. But we also got new MMORPG content in the form of a new end scenario dungeon, a new monolith boss, 2 new silos, and 2 modified silos. So as a player, I am left really confused as to which direction Starry is driving the game. Now that's just my opinion. I'd like to ask other Once Human players. Do you think Once Human is a survival game with RPG elements? Or is it an MMORPG with survival elements? Leave your opinion in the comments below. Base destruction and the threat of base destruction are elements in any good survival game. Until this season, Once Human really didn't have much in the way of base destruction. The Chaoswevers seem to be a big indicator of Starry's movement towards more survival mechanics. However, anyone who's been playing in the Way of Winter scenario will tell you that while the Chaoswevers are a great idea on paper, their execution has missed the mark. For example, the Chaos Weaver spawn locations are static, so if you want to never have to deal with a Chaos Weaver destroying your base, all you have to do is build your thermal tower away from the spawn points. This doesn't sound very good for a survival game. If you compare Chaos Weavers to the Blood Moon in 7 Days to Die, one is an annoyance, and one will give you the anxiety that a good horror game should. As it is right now, Chaos Weavers spawn at static spawn points and then will attack the closest thing to that spawn point, be it a thermal tower or a player base. I would argue this is a very poor mechanic, as the Chaos Weavers should be specifically targeting thermal towers and only attacking player bases as they path to those thermal towers. It is very clear Chaos Weavers need to be tweaked, but again, how the tweak should happen depends on what Starry thinks their game is, survival or MMORPG. If it is an open world survival game, then base defenses need to be 1,000 times more effective. So if a Chaos Weaver spawns and moves towards the thermal tower, a properly defended tower surrounded by bases with online defenses should be able to defeat or deter the Chaos Weaver, even if the players are offline. If Once Human is an MMORPG, then thermal towers should have preset drop locations that coincide with Chaos Weaver spawn points. And then those Chaos Weavers would spawn and attack at player-driven and determined intervals. For example, it could be when they unlock every 5th technology, or when they unlock each new tier, or a combination of both. This would give players a count of when spawns would happen, because they would happen after the tier or the 5th technology interval unlocks. No matter what the intention, the Chaos Weaver fight right now needs a lot of tuning. The fights are currently boring bullet sponges with some ads thrown in. I've literally done Chaos Weaver fights kneeling down in Bastille State, and I knelt the entire fight. I soaked the saw discs because they do very little damage. As long as someone else is around to keep the ads off me, I can just pick a spot and go to town with the bingo, the bullseye, whatever the sniper rifle is called this week. The Chaos Weaver fights aren't very fulfilling, and the rewards are certainly not on par with the Prime War rewards from Season 1, and the Prime Wars only take a fraction of the time. If Chaos Weaver showed up on the map, more people would flock to them, lowering the total time to kill. If the rewards were made a little more robust, people would seek them out. If Chaos Weavers could actually destroy thermal towers and prevent the server from getting that 7k star crumb at the end of the season, more people would work together to get them killed as quickly as possible. These same issues exist with both thermal towers themselves and Cortex Purifying events, where these are great ideas on paper, but the execution needs some fine-tuning. As they are currently designed, thermal towers only need to be purified periodically, if you want to retain the ability to increase or decrease the local temperature. However, all the other functions of the thermal tower remain online, even when the tower is at 100% Chaosium waste and is waiting to be purified. This is a terrible oversight in terms of execution on so many levels. Thermal towers should have to be functional for the buffs to apply. The moment the tower hits 100% Chaosium waste, all buffs should go offline. Second, the hourly Chaosium consumption rate needs to be completely reworked, so thermal towers must be online and burning Chaosium for the buffs to be applied to the territory area. The developers should be asking themselves, why aren't players purifying their towers more often? And the answer is carrot and stick. Carrots are rewards that players earn for doing something. Stick is the punishment they get for not doing something. When it comes to purifying thermal towers, there is very minimal carrot and almost no stick. Since the tower continues to provide buffs, even when at 100% waste, there is no stick. Even if you do purify your tower, the rewards are lackluster, thus no carrot. A very easy solution to implement would be to force the purification events. Once the thermal tower hits 100% waste, a 24-hour timer should automatically start. If the players do not manually activate the purify function before the timer runs out, then the tower should automatically enter purification, and the surrounding players would have to suffer the consequences of an uncontested event. Additionally, the event itself needs refinement. Currently, the event is a 6-minute event, with mob waves attacking whatever is in their path as they spawn and attempt to reach the tower. Even if a path to this tower exists, the enemy mobs will attack nearby bases instead of rushing the tower, which really is just an annoyance, as mobs may end up destroying pumps, generators, filters. But what's worse is if the spawns reach the tower and the players fail to protect it, nothing debilitating happens. All you end up having to do is add aluminum, electronic parts, Chaosium, and then you hit repair. To spice up tower purification, it needs to be based on the level of the tower. So the higher the level of the tower, the longer the fight will be, the more mobs that will spawn, the more elites that will spawn. Additionally, should the tower be knocked down to 0% durability, there should be a consequence. Maybe the tower gets knocked down a few levels and random technologies are lost. Or maybe the tower enters a reinforced mode where it takes 24 to 48 hours to come online again. And during that time, there are no buffs available and the tower counts as a level 0 tower. Or maybe there is something else equally painful that could be applied. But without a stick, without a consequence, you don't have that healthy anxiety of really feeling like you need to be successful. If you have an idea for what could be a stick, please leave it in the comments. Since carrot and stick go together, there needs to be much better rewards for doing the purification events. As it is right now, the rewards are okay, but nothing to write home to Mr. Wish about. If the severity of the spawn is going to be based on the tower level, so should the rewards. The tower defense could begin offering Starcrom like Cortex Purification, or it could offer Mitsuku marks, armor and mod boxes of the non-resonance variety, weapon calibrations, and other things that players covet and collect. It could also be interesting to have a new currency that allows for more Prism deviation gift boxes, or even straight deviations to be earned by players. So the more towers, and maybe even the more Chaoswevers you've successfully dealt with, the more likely it is you can buy a better deviation from this new currency shop. And I would ask, what do viewers think about this? Would you like a deviation currency where you could choose from basic 1-1 to 5-5 stat deviations based on your performance in a season? If you look at the Way of Winter Phase 4 screen, you will see this. The server will earn Starcrom depending on how many level 24 thermal towers they have. If you have 10, you will get 3,000 Starcrom, up to 7,000 Starcrom if you have 20 level 24 towers. Now here we are on my server and we have 93. Clearly there was not enough of a challenge to overcome to make out with 7,000 Starcrom. If, however, there were more attacks on towers, if towers could be knocked down levels, put into reinforce mode and thus not count towards the total, or maybe even be totally destroyed, the players would feel like they earned that Starcrom. The carrot would be meaningful. Cortex Purification, the same problem exists. As it is right now, The only time tier 3 cortexes are even remotely to refine is during phase 1 when you can't get tier 5 weapons and armor. After phase 2, because you have your endgame gear, you can throw 40 level 3 cortexes into the filter and sleep through the event. This is where the developers of Once Human need to look at 7 Days to Die and benchmark some of their ideas. Right now, it doesn't matter which tier of cortexes you refine, you will always have an event that happens across 5 minutes. Right now on Way of Winter, you will have 3 monster waves of appropriate level mobs and 2 elites. What could happen is this event needs to be reworked, so the better you do, the more star crown you get. The timer should absolutely increase to 10 minutes, probably 15. The monster wave should spawn and rush towards the purifying filter, attempting to destroy it. Each wave destroyed should be 33% of the star crown reward. Each elite defeated should have a star crown reward. So only by clearing all 3 waves and all 3 elites would you get the maximum reward. Another tweak would be if the resonant filter is destroyed, then whatever progress was made for that type of cortex is recorded and rewarded, but any additional cortexes that were loaded are lost. And the remaining 40 of the week can only be fulfilled by a lower tier of cortex. The type of cortex you load into the purifying unit should absolutely determine the level of the mob, the level of the elites, and how much star crown you get. I would suggest that we change it so that tier 1 cortexes give a little bit more star crown, and we keep it how it is. They should spawn mobs between level 15 and 25, and they should be standard elites that come from purification like the Rainfall Reaper, the Weevil, and the Claw Machine. As we move up in tier, the difficulty should increase. In tier 2, we should absolutely be seeing elites like the Mother of Life, the Luna Moth, staff badges, and they should be given enough hit points to provide a significant challenge to clear before the next wave of normal mobs begins to spawn. When we get to tier 3, the reward should be increased because the difficulty should absolutely be cranked to 11. The mobs that spawn during tier 3 cortexes should be spawning at level 50 to 60. The elites that spawn should be significant challenges like Arbiters, Gluttons, and Sirens, and these should have boosted hit points so they are still a threat well into the next wave of mob spawning. They should also emulate 7 Days to Die, and the number of mobs in each wave should reflect the number of hive members present during purification. More hive members means more mobs in each wave, meaning more challenge. There should even be more reward given if there are more players present, but this reward should not be star crown, or everybody would just pile into max size hives to get the maximum star crown reward. Instead, this reward should be in the form of Mitsuku marks so people can buy more of the chest for cosmetic rewards, statues, or deviations. Or we could even include that deviation currency we talked about earlier so players can have an alternative way to earn deviations other than constantly grinding silos and monoliths. While 7 Days to Die was my model for this idea, I do admit there are many ways to cheese the Blood Moon in 7 Days to Die. But one constant is that the zombies are constantly trying to get to the player during the Blood Moon, and they will absolutely destroy anything that gets in their way. For Once Human, I believe it would add a lot of excitement to purification if the mobs were much more aggressive and focused on punching a hole in the base and destroying anything in their path to get to that filter. Now, I don't want to leave this video with a sour taste in anyone's mouth. This may sound like I'm just dogging on Once Human, and nothing could be further from the truth. I love this game. I play it exclusively. I don't even have a side game. Please don't tell Crusader Kings 3 I'm cheating on her. If you want to leave a comment, please do so below. If you have questions about Once Human, I would be more than happy to answer them. Until then, shoot straight, conserve ammo, and don't eat yellow snow.